Good morning, everybody in Canada, USA, Latin America. Good afternoon to everybody, our brothers and sisters in Europe. Good evening to everybody in India, and of course, late evening in entire Southeast Asia, right from Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei. We extend a very hearty welcome to all our brothers and sisters from the world over to be a part of yet another program making education relevant. That is for the global harmony and the peace the whole world is passing through at present from the most difficult times. And at present, if we see, we all are locked down in our residences. And I pray to Almighty and we wish that each one of you should remain healthy. You should be physically, mentally fit, taking care of yourself, your family members, your relatives, your neighbors, your community, your society, and of course, the entire humanity, the civilization, where we all are connected with each other directly or indirectly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, making education relevant when we talk about, there are a number of stakeholders in education, right from the UNESCO, when I come to the schools, when I come to colleges, universities, technical institutions, management institutions, you've got health and wellness institute, you've got counselors, you've got teachers, you've got principals, you've got directors, you've got vice chancellors, you have got technology providers, policymakers, you've got Ministry of HRD, you've got AICT, you've got UGC, National Council for Teacher Education, NCRT, NIPA, you have got British Council, you have got TAFE, Technical and Further Education. World over, you have got various forums, and all of us together, we are trying to empower the education fraternity and education ecosystem. Very especially, our hearty welcome from our chamber, ICSI, International Chamber for Service Industry, to my brothers and sisters, non-resident Indians, PIOs, NGOs, corporate houses, those are extending support world over, directly or indirectly, whatever capacity you can. Of course, in this program, we are also starting from the next week. Each week, you will have one motivational speaker also coming, but ultimately, our entire focus is going to be youth. The youth, because education has to be learning centric. At present, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, almost about 850 million children and youth, roughly half of the world's student population, they are at present away from schools, colleges, and universities. It's a difficult time, we understand. At the same time, we wish to share that the Western philosophy and the thought process on the education has got four purposes. Which are those four purposes? It has got economic purpose, it has got social, it has got cultural, and at the same time, the fourth one, that is a personal purpose. That means the students, the youth, and particularly what do they want, we got to understand. And Sir Ken Robinson, to whom I hold in great respect, it's a pleasure to meet him. Whenever I'm in United States, earlier he was in UK, he says knowledge is a collective contribution. It's not a monologue, it's a conversation. That's a great thing. When we come to Indian perspective, we always say Vasudev Kutumbakam because we give the first priority to culture, the Sanskriti. The whole world is one family. The whole world is together. We all live together. We all think together. And there has to be positive thoughts prevailing with the positive attitude world over if we want to overcome this difficult moments. After culture comes social norms, our etiquettes, our manners, our gesture, our body language, and our articulation, our humbleness, our bowing before others and taking everybody and sharing whatever we have got with everyone. That's our social norms. And then comes the third factor, education does hold, that is economic purpose, because every parent always look forward to our child should get some kind of a job or startup or stand up or some self-employment or employment, whatsoever has to be taken. But once again, the fourth purpose is personal purpose, we got to understand what does youth want? Why have they taken a particular subject? Why are they undergoing one particular studies? And this particular lockdown has brought new pedagogy. It has shifted the whole system from the classroom to all together on a different mode, different platform, and technology is playing very important role. Different tools are being used. TV channels are there, radio is there, community radio is there, FM radio is there, mobile phones are there, other electronic gadgets are there, and of course, whatever is possible, we are trying to reach out. My deep salutations. My when I talk about, of course, the warriors are doctors, nurses, paramedical, others, but our teachers and our principals, our educators, they are also warriors because they are trying to look after the children. Those are not in a position to reach their schools, colleges, institutions. They also to be taken care of, and it is something very important. I salute all my educators world over wherever they are because you're doing a phenomenal, you're doing a remarkable job. God bless all of you. You're wonderful people. And that's why we are trying how to shift from the classroom to the technical platform, digital mode, and sooner we adopt, better it is. What could be innovative, creative, and pragmatic education? There are some verticals which we got to take into considerations. This lockdown has given us that there has to be 100% relevance to the present time. If somebody is developing a particular skill, if I know how to repair my tap, how to repair my tube light, how to repair my AC, how to repair my fan, how to take care of my drainage system, how to grow organic vegetables on my rooftop or in my kitchen garden instead of just having ornamentals, how to repair my own vehicle. So 100% relevance to the present times practical orientation. Research is very important. Research and creativity based. When I go to Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, a couple of other countries, South Korea, when I go to Singapore, and I try to understand the education system over there, how are they having their skills, their vocationals, their technological skills being developed. It's a great learning, and we learn from each other. Let's pick up the best from each other, whatever we can. Life management skills, very important, because one is living skills and one is life skills. Life management, how to manage our life, how to be positive, how to be creative, how to be collaborative, how to be dynamic. That part is very important. And adapting to the technological system, what all is coming in a positive way. Of course, technical hazards, difficulties, problems are there. There is a divide, there's a wide gap. Somebody is getting a good bandwidth, somebody is not getting that good a bandwidth. Somebody is in urban, somebody is rural. But I think all of us together as a stakeholder, our recommendation from the chamber is the government in respective countries should focus to give seamless bandwidth wherever people are, whether in urban or in rural, at the same time to give the basic gadgets so the children can make best use of the technology. And then, of course, culture and the value-based education, it is something very important. The more I read and more I try to do research every day, this morning at about 4:30, I was watching Takshila and I was going through Nalanda. What were those universities? How they started? What kind of students were there? Who were the acharyas? What was happening? What kind of education was given over there? And something mind-blowing when you go through the evolution of education. It was not the present way, the way we are having. Of course, as a stakeholder, now, if India has to become Vishwaguru, Bharat ka Samman Karo, when we talk about it, personal and professional development of the educators is also very important. Teachers got to be respected. They got to be given their due wherever they are. And Swami Vivekananda ji, when he says, all power is within you. You can do anything on this planet. Should you wish once, then you can achieve whatever you want. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening, I've got a golden triangle. I've got three distinguished guests. I've got three eminent speakers, and I've got three ladies. Those are going to share their thought processes with us. We have got Madam Chitrakala Ramachandran. She is a principal, Chennai Public School. A very hearty welcome to ma'am. Madam Ramachandran, she has got 28 years of professional experience in the field of education. She spent considerable time in Abu Dhabi, Germany, and of course at other places besides India. She has a successful track record in planning and execution of the new methodologies in education. Her areas of expertise are strategic planning and execution of innovative teaching learning methods, team building and leadership, counseling, teachers training. Having won several prestigious awards, she's a dynamic leader and a mentor with a fresh insight and passion for innovation. A very hearty welcome to Madam Ramachandran. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined from Kuwait. She is going to talk about the Gulf education. We have got Madam Asha Sharmaji. She is a principal, Indian Learners Own Academy in Kuwait. She has rendered over 43 years of dedicated services as educator and principal, out of which 26 years she has spent in Kuwait as principal. Hearty welcome to ma'am. She is a founder principal of 3 schools in Kuwait, namely Indian Central School 1994 she set up, then Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan 2006 Indian Education School, and Indian Learners Own Academy Kuwait 2010. Wonderful, remarkable. Authorized, she authored 17 textbooks based on CBSE and Manipur curriculum, edited and reviewed many textbooks, freelance writer for Hindustan Times, and did educational columns for the Times in Kuwait. She's a pioneer in forming Kuwait chapter of CBSE schools, convener of Kuwait chapter of CBSE schools for 7 years, secretary Gulf Council, chairperson Gulf Council, CBSE resource person for social sciences, city coordinator for checking evidence of assessment in Gulf CBSE schools, mentor of 8 schools in Gulf, advisor to Scholars Academy at Doha, visiting professor of Madurai Kamraj University for journalism and the B.Ed courses. Received National Award for Teachers in 2007. Sometimes technical glitches do come, and technical people you got to be taken care of. And we come to yes. Now, hearty welcome to Madam Geeta Gangwani ji, the principal from Bal Bharati Public School, Rohini. Very hearty welcome to you. Madam Geeta Gangwani ji, she is a principal, Bal Bharati Public School, Rohini. She is passionate chemistry teacher and a diligent administrator with a vast experience spanning 30 years. Recipient of the National Award to Teachers 2017 by the Department of School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. She's working as coordinator for international projects like UKIRI, Robert Bosch, Delhi to Durban, Australia project under British Council. Her engagements with digital platform like Chocolate, Flip Classroom, and e-learning modules have given her immense expertise in using technology in the classrooms and a leader principal. She has encouraged many teachers to undergo training to be digitally empowered. She has been presented by Rex Karamveer Global Education Change Champion Torchbearer School Award 2019, State Teacher Award in 2016, Global Teacher Accreditation by British Council. A very hearty welcome to Madam for joining us today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just wish to share quickly with all of you. Monday to Friday, we talk about education, how to empower education system, how to make education more relevant. And we are talking about global perspective. And you would be so happy to know that in the coming days, each day you will have lots of international faculties coming together globally, coming into one confluence, one podlock, and giving all their wonderful ingredients to us to develop a beautiful ecosystem as a harmony and as a global education empowerment. But at the same time, with education, it is very important is you got to be taking care of your health and wellness. Health, happiness, humor, harmony, and humanity through education. So every Saturday on health and wellness, we bring for you same time, 7 to 8 p.m. Ayurveda for the global wellness. So next Saturday, that's on 20th of June, you will have a Zoom webinar, and we will also be live with you on YouTube as well as on the Facebook, Dr. Gulshan Sharma's page. Join on the watch parties also. Share with the humanity as much as you can. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes I feel very bad about it. A lot of people have taken the knowledge with them and they have gone from this universe, and that knowledge has also gone with them. Had they shared that knowledge with others, today the humanity and the brotherhood and the peace and the prosperity in the universe would have been altogether different. Instead of wars, we would have been living more in peace. Every Sunday morning, we bring you international beautiful notes from different speakers. Next Sunday is going to be beautiful, 21st of June. That is International Yoga Day. That day we are going to talk about Lord Buddha, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. And that day we are going to talk about harnessing well-being of educators through Buddhist psychology. Join us on Sunday, 21st of June, 2020, international speaker, 9:30 a.m. That's coming Sunday. Now this research part, I'll be sharing a little later with you because this comes from our chamber. With these words, I'm going to unmute my first speaker, and I would request Madam Asha ji, you can unmute your microphone, and we wish to start with you this evening. Each speaker, you can take about 8 to 10 minutes, share your thought process, share your vision. It's an informal platform. It's a positive platform. It's a dynamic platform. It's a creative platform. It's an education empowerment platform. And all of us together, I want you as teachers should share your knowledge and wisdom so that humanity can be empowered. With these words from Kuwait, coming live, Madam Asha Sharma. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yes.
We can hear you, and a hearty welcome to you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Dr. Sharma. And thank you for giving me this platform to express myself, to add something from Kuwait, our experiences, to make education more relevant. I would also like to thank Swarnima for roping me in. And I salute all the luminaries who are attending this webinar this evening. And I'm very happy to become a part of this 360-degree feedback which we are giving on the working and of Indian education system in India. When we are working on making education system relevant in India, why not to make it relevant all over the world? Indian schools are there all over the world. So it is very important that we put in our best to make it relevant, not only for the Indian schools, but to all those countries also which want to imbibe our system. This is a movement in which we all are involved. And as India had been a hub of learning, let us go and revive that history of the past and make it again a hub of learning. My first point is that I vote for the uniformity in curriculum throughout India. India is one. There should be one curriculum which should be adopted by each nook and corner of India. It should be uniform for the whole of India. Not only for whole of India, it should be implemented in all the foreign Indian schools as well. Why do I say so? Because in Kuwait, we see every year 10 to 15% children leave, and 10 to 15% children join every year. The children who join us, they join in various classes. We follow CBSE curriculum. They come from various boards. What we do in class 2, suppose we are teaching in class 1 or 2 numbers up to 1,000. We see in other boards, it is not so. We are starting decimals at one stage. Other classes in other boards, they are starting decimals or fractions at different class. So what happens when these children, they join us, they are not able to follow what is going on at the moment. We try to chip in, we try to help them, but how much? So blocks are formed, and children, when these blocks are formed, they do not understand the lessons, then they don't like the subjects. So the students who are coming from heterogeneous background from all over India, we try to fill the gaps, but something remains unfulfilled. And this is what happens in all the foreign countries. Hence, my summation, first summation is this, that we should go for national curriculum for India so that there is no hitch and we have smooth sailing. In Finland, recently they have adopted phenomena-based or theme-based study. It's not a thing that we never experimented with it. My school had been the CBSE International School, and we started theme-based study. Like, for example, nowadays COVID is prevalent. So we can study about COVID in reference to self, with reference to self, with reference to family, community, transport, plants, animals, air, water, or universe. And another thing which I would like to submit here is this: the teachers should be free to make their study material. They know the level of the class. Then when textbooks are given, then they become an end in themselves. And teachers do not have the freedom to go out or to spend more time with something which is not well understood, and they want to give weightage to that. So I feel worksheet system works better. And this also reduces the weight of the bags. It is a rule that weight of the bag should be 1/10 of the weight of the child. And if we adopt the worksheet system, then teachers can go at their own pace, and it will be very easy, and they can devote as much time as possible to a particular chapter or time, and they can do away with the rest. It is the priority of the teacher. So I feel this much of freedom should be given to the teachers. Then we often talk about happiness. Happiness is a habit. It has to be inculcated. There is a cry nowadays that one should be happy. Children should be happy, teachers should be happy, family should be happy, but how to bring this happiness? I think happiness inculcation should become a part of training at B.Ed level. And teachers who are getting the training, they should be given this like of a skill that how to keep the children happy. A teacher who is happy can only make the students happy. Otherwise, there is a butterfly effect. That teacher is not happy, then she comes and gives something in the class which makes students unhappy, and they carry it forward. So I feel interpersonal skills must be a part of the curriculum of B.Ed. This is my another suggestion. We should take time to introduce anything. Whatever changes are to be introduced, we should take time, and first we should train teachers. When we introduce CCE, for example, it came like a thunderstorm and went like a whirlwind. People were not trained. Teachers were not understanding. I took so many workshops on CCE to tell that what it is. And some people really played with it. System was very good. Philosophy behind the system was very good, but it was not implemented nicely. So my submission here is that we are going for international or national curriculum, uniformity in curriculum. We should not be in a hurry to introduce anything. Whatever framework we make, we must experiment with a few schools, with a few institutions. And when we come with the conclusion, then we must train the teachers first, make them mentally prepared to receive the new system. Another thing which I would like to say, that we talk about child-centered education. This is also the cry of the time. But are we able to give child-centered education in a class of 40 students? No. But little bit of a thing we can do, that let the children go at their own pace. They can be at higher level in some subjects, at lower level in some other subjects. But they should be motivated to go higher and higher in a particular subject. But here we have to decide a policy that how much of flexibility is to be given to the students and how will they be complemented in other subjects about it. So this is another point, another submission from my side. And they should be allowed to go ahead, whatever they choose, the area of their interest. And we should do away with the marks system. It breeds unhealthy competition. We should go for grades, but for grading, rubrics must be well defined. It should not be given blindly. Here, the question is, what is more important, teaching or learning? To my mind, learning is more important. Teachers may be very highly qualified. They may be knowing more, but if the class, if the students are not learning, then what is the use of that? So learning should be a very rewarding and pleasant experience. And it can become a pleasant experience only when it is made interesting and fun. So teachers should have for that pleasant mannerisms, and they should use very refined language. And I feel another point is this, that this should also be a part of teachers' training. Besides this, why not to educate parents alongside? Whenever we start a class, our parents' booklet should also be given to them so that they can chip in, they can do their best for the children. We complain about rote learning. We also complain about heavy syllabi. At various workshops, I asked that who are the people who are framing this curriculum? And I always found the answer that they are university level people who are making the curriculum. I feel teachers of each level should be made a part of the curriculum. Universities should define that for the intake of the students, what all areas they want children to be proficient in. We should go steadily, slowly, but whatever portion they have to do at the college level, why should we teach at the school level? So make it little lighter, and it is not necessary that all the children will go for the universities. Some may go for vocational training. So if the job market is going to be different, and all the children are not going to enter to the university, some may go for the vocational training, then why to load the children with a plethora of books and heavy curriculum? Another summation here is this, like in Kuwait, we have got 4 periods per week to teach Arabic to foreign students, and 8 periods per week to teach Arabic to all the Arab students. Now, like in my school, I do not have Arabs, but I've got Asian students, so at least 4 periods I'm giving. English is already a linked language. Hindi is our national language, which should be studied up to class 8. There should be some room for vernacular languages and the culture of various regions of India. Many parents, they come to me and they say, ma'am, why don't you teach Tamil? Why don't you teach Malayalam? And they say, our child has come to the Gulf. Other children in Kerala, when we go back, they talk in Malayalam. My child doesn't follow. Now, there is no room for that at the moment. And I feel the international language, Arabic, should be given the equal status as is French, German, or Russian in the curriculum. Another thing which is very important, that there is a lot of apathy among students towards social science. This is my subject. It hurts me when they say it's a very difficult subject, they can't understand it. To my mind, it is the most interesting subject. It depends on the person who is dealing with the subject. So I feel history or other subjects of social science should be taught very logically. History is just cause and effect. For everything, there is a reason, there is a effect of that. So if we treat this subject and we ask the students to read the biographies, the autobiographies of the people, then it would be better. Nowadays, reading habit is going away. Children do not read many books. They may go to surf various sites, but reading has not been inculcated. So this is the era of logic and relevance, and children want to know the logic behind everything. So I feel that people who are going to deal with social science, or at the moment who are teaching social science, they should change their perspective, and they should teach it in an interesting and fun-loving manner. Disaster management is one of the subjects which we teach in 8th, 9th, and 10th. It has been prescribed by CBSE, but since there is no exam from this subject, whichsoever subject there is no exam is not taken seriously. So this subject is put aside. And see, COVID disaster, they do just a project. They choose some topics, they do those topics. But I feel after facing this phenomena, we must make it a compulsory subject. And life skills have also become the text-bound studies. It should not be like that. And another thing that we must work is that children should know about health and hygiene. It should become a part of prime part of education, and they should know their strengths and weaknesses. IT is appreciated, and Sarah also said just now, IT is necessary, and we are heading towards that era. But everything has got two pros and cons of it. There is a lot of radiation. Nowadays, small children, they roam about with the tabs and the mobile phones. And a lot of radiation is there, and many children are having weak eyesight. There are so many cyber crimes which are taking place. We were conducting virtual classes. There were so many undesirable things which were happening in those classes. Then to sensitize our children with the good and bad touch, it should just form a part of the curriculum. And I would like to say here that we must focus on the good handwriting of the children, because everybody is on the typewriter and it's a very nice skill which is getting lost. About spiritual training, it is a very high, very sensitive matter when it comes to Gulf. And I think the people who are involved in the new curriculum, they must pay a visit to these countries, and they should learn what are the fears involved in that. And teaching of religions is not very much permitted. So we should better teach religions as a synthesis of what is good in every religion. Either we should touch all or not. And for the Gulf region, it alternative chapters, if they are given, it is better. And some families are very prejudiced again, and they are about dance and music. I think teaching profession is the mother profession of all. All the professions have originated from this, and we train all kinds of children, engineers, doctors. But the image of the teacher is that of the person dragging chappals, wearing ankle length sari, poor teacher. We have to take away that image from the society. We have to elevate our teachers, and best minds in education can come only when the people driven with passion, they enter this field. The lucrative salaries are offered to them, and no differential treatment is made to the teachers who are teaching primary, KG, or higher classes. I think primary formative years are equally important. Those teachers are equally important, whereas they are not kept in the loop, or they are not offered high salaries. And there is a segregation all over India. There should be uniform policy about it. And last thing I would like to say, that teaching is an isolated profession. Our assessment of the teaching fraternity has to be very smart. Who is doing what, where, and how do we analyze teachers? It is very, very important. With this, I think I've taken the time allotted to me. I'm sorry if I've exceeded my limit. I didn't come to know about it. I'm extremely sorry for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. You joined us from Kuwait. We are so happy. We are so happy. And you talked so much about Indian culture, Indian values, and two, three very important takeaways from you is children want to know logic behind learning. Beautiful
Yes.
sentence, because even if I sit with my grandchild sometime who is 6 years old, and when he shows me the Milky Way, the galaxy, and all that, and I wonder at that age, when I was 6 years old, I didn't have that much of information. So it's an information age, it's a
Yes.
tech savvy age, and we have to allow children, and we have to pick up so many threads from each other, and entire education has to be learning centric. That's well said. And another very
Sir,
important thing, yes,
I would like to speak one sentence more, that
sure, sure,
no school can rise above the level of teachers.
yes,
This we
yes,
should
yes,
note.
yes. And disaster management, yes, very relevant. Life skills to know oneself. Thank you very much. I think you gave a wonderful insight to us. We have taken all the points, and you started on a very beautiful note, that uniformity in the curriculum. So that point
Yes.
also is well taken, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. From Kuwait, we are grateful to you, and many more such occasions, many more such points we will work out, we will plan it out. Thank you. And now let me just request our another distinguished guest who had been in Abu Dhabi. She had been in Germany. She had been traveling quite a bit, and now at present in southern part of India. I love South India. I love South Indian dishes and the food part. Most of the Punjabis are very fond of South Indian dishes, because the best part is South Indian food we can digest within no time, and we start feeling hungry again. That's something is very. Whereas our North Indian Punjabi food is very heavy, it's very oily. Okay, so very hearty welcome to Madam Chitrakala Ramachandran ji. And
you.
kindly share your thought process with us. Kindly share your vision with us, how to make education relevant, how to empower education system, and how we should take it forward, and quote your some examples outside India also, wherever you had been, so that we can bring some outside relevances also as well to, it's a global perspective. Hearty welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir, for that beautiful introduction. I would thank this platform, first of all. It's a wonderful, wonderful platform here. I would thank Swarnima madam as well. Well, I would, because you said I have to get something from there, I'm getting something for you from Germany. I would like to play a small video of 1.5 minutes before I start talking. So let me share screen first. It's taking a bit of time. Well, in the meanwhile, I'll just tell. I am actually a permanent resident of Germany. So whenever I visit German, I do go to the kindergartens there. I explore a bit over there, and I try to get the interesting things that I can from there. And I try to incorporate them into my school whenever I do it. So I think it's...
Ma'am, you got to take care of sound, ma'am. Sound. Ma'am, I would just request you, you share the video once again, and down below the sharing, there are two buttons. One is called volume, the voice, and the sound. It is written over there.
Okay.
Share computer sound. It's written over there down below. Just press that button. It is down below. You can play your video again. Not to worry.
Okay.
Not to worry.
Okay. I will just keep it.
First, you have to stop share, ma'am.
Oh, stop sharing. Okay.
First, stop share.
Okay.
Then just go on to the beginning of the video. But before you start the video, down
Just
below,
1 second.
there are two buttons,
Yes,
ma'am. No
yes.
worries, no worries, no worries. We all are picking up. We all are learning. No problems at all. No problems.
I have
Share
enhanced it.
Share your screen again.
Yes.
And
Yes.
down below, there is a sound.
Yeah. Just hold on. I just do it.
Share computer sound.
1 second, please. I'm unable to.
Okay, ma'am. No worries. We will
Okay.
feel we will feel
Yes,
we are in Germany. We will feel we are in Germany.
Okay.
No worries.
I just wanted to play this to give a feel.
Sure.
Like some of the, what do you say, kindergartens are recently planned inside the wilderness. So I got an opportunity to go there to see how the children learn. The children are brought by the parents to a particular place where the teachers collect the children from there, and then they walk at least a mile inside the wilderness. And the children are allowed to play with bugs, with the soil, with the flowers, with the fruits. It was so interesting to see that. And what is that? That's nothing but experiential learning, which now CBSE is insisting us to do in the schools. So this was a very good element that I saw, and it was really interesting for me. So I thought, I should do something, maybe not the whole of it, at least a bit of it, that I should bring it back home. So what we did is, in my school, what I've done is we have created workstations, we call it as. The child no more sits in the same room all through the day, especially the elementary classes. because as per the new education policy, the elementary school should learn through experience, should learn through art integration. So what we have done is we have created environment, workstations for literacy, for numeracy, for music, for dance, for theater. And the children actually walk every 1 hour from one station to the other. They explore, the whole environment is set in such a way that they learn through staying in that place. And it is not a monotony because they're walking around, they have flexibility. And we also take them as a school tour where they walk into the garden, they see, they explore a little bit of with the flowers and fruits, because I have a wonderful premises all around, about 46 acres. So we have a little bit of wilderness here and there, and a kitchen garden. So they bring pebbles, they bring stones, they feel, they touch, they speak about it. So this I felt was very interesting there. Here I would like to speak about 4 R's as schools that we have to look at. We have to actually reimagine teaching. That's what I felt when I had these experiences. Then I just imagined how a child would feel when he learns by doing things. So we started bringing it into the system. Believe it, it was so welcoming. The parents and the children enjoyed it. I could say more than 85 to 90% of the children got it better, because we also incorporate the concept of differential learning in the classes, where through the same activity, all the children who have different IQ level get the information or get the outcome, what we have set as an objective, in a proper way. So we started reimagining how to plan it. We revisited every single aspect and we tried to change what we could do a bit. Looking at it, after reimagining, we had to reinvent new strategies to do it. So with the teachers, we had a series of trainings, how we could do. And this reinvention brought in creativity of the teachers, brought in new elements into the teaching, which actually, when we were planning, the teachers and all of us enjoyed it. We played like kids, and then we brought it into the platform over there. So doing this, we also had to do a bit of a remedy over there. We had to do a bit of remedy in what actually the curriculum is set, how best without disturbing the outcomes we can actually do it. So we had to do small remedies, tailor-made remedies, which will help us to get it into the system. Then we had to take a resolution. We'll reimagine again, we'll reinvent again, and we'll remediate so that the resolution is taken in such a way that everybody in school enjoys learning. So through this, I would like to also connect with the 7 C's, what I feel is very important for learning. When we do all of this, the first C that I would like to speak about is the curriculum. The curriculum, as a CBSE curriculum, we have a set design curriculum. We have to impart a particular amount of knowledge and information in the particular outcomes given. So we do it along with a lot of strategies that we have planned. So when we are doing it, we have to ensure that the children are also being exposed to the different competencies required for them to face the world outside. So looking at that, it's not only competencies, it has to also have skills involved in that. And there should be some self-learning goals. So looking back, when we reimagined what we did, we tried to set goals for the children, how they can actually plan their own learning. We give them a particular object, we ask them to speak about it. So what happens, the child actually learns it, and that we brought it into the curriculum in such a way, a lot of activities were given there. Based on the activities, what are the outcomes that is required, we interlinked everything. Then this particular curriculum has to be continuously revisited by us. Only if we revisit often and if we understand what we have set, we can bring what is required for the future generation. Otherwise, what happens, it is set, we keep it aside and we follow the same thing all over. That doesn't give any good essence, because as Madam just said, this latest situation has brought in a lot of revisiting into the curriculum and for us to make continual changes into that. So once you continuously revisit the curriculum and understand, we have to keep it in the context of understanding the bigger picture, what is there laid outside for the students. The students, once they finish school, they are going to go expose themselves into the outside world. When they are going there, they should be well planned, well set, so that they are capable to understand what is required with all the skills and the competencies that they've learned. So as a teacher, as a school principal, as a school, we also should understand the real big picture outside. That is what I've connected with the context. Then comes connecting. We have to connect with all the stakeholders, from the management to the transport, to the parents, to the students, to everybody who's connected with the school, to make them understand this is the culture in the school. This is how we are planning the curriculum. This is how we are going to make the students understand it, because those days are gone. What we used to teach was what the curriculum was. Today, curriculum means everything embedded into it. So the pedagogies had to be revisited. We had to communicate to the parents by connecting to them. We had to communicate through connecting to them in various ways, especially during these days. We are connecting them through WhatsApp, through internet, through phones and whatnot, I can say, because we have to definitely connect to everybody to make them all understand. As you said in the beginning, everybody should get the facility of learning. So the government should look at the bandwidth, so everybody is getting it. So this is also what I felt, in the beginning, I should bring it into my speech, what I'm going to give today. So connection is very important. For that, we request, or we want everybody watching this to understand every child deserves the education. Every single child, even though he's in a remote part of the world or in India, he deserves that education. For that, we teachers are ready. We just need the technology and the way to connect them well. So through connecting, we also do communicate to them in a way that, because now we are in a virtual platform, we are unable to physically connect and speak to them. We have to communicate in such a way it reaches them in a better way. For this, the teachers are working back and forth day and night. I already said, when we had a small discussion, earlier we used to work from probably 8:30 to 6:30 in the evening or 8 o'clock in the evening. Today we start at 7:30, finish at 10 o'clock in the evening. So it goes like that because we had to be prepared enough for facing the next day. So that communication to the child should reach every child in the way that we want them to get. We cannot stop over there. We have to campaign what we are doing. We have to propagate what we are doing. We have to bring it to every corner, every stakeholder, every agency, that this is how we want every child to learn. Because I also know there's a lot of controversy that, the child is having a lot of screen time. Even as principal, I was against the screen time till Jan. But after Jan, I'm encouraging screen time because that's the only way that we are able to reach children. Believe it, I have students from Andaman who are studying, who don't get proper bandwidth. We are sending the recorded videos to them, and we speak over the phone to make them understand what we are teaching them. So this campaigning is so important. Of all the 6, what I spoke, commitment is very, very important. Unless and until, as schools, as teachers, as educationists, if we don't have the commitment to do the work, whatever we plan, it all goes, for waste. So what I also want to add here is, when we prepare children through communication, that is, let me go from the beginning, that is through the curriculum, continuously revisited, and the context that we are going to do in a broader angle, and to connect with everybody through the best communication ways, and we campaign the best way for everybody to be reaching what we want to do. And we are committed to do it as teachers and as schools. I'm sure every school, not only in India, abroad, anywhere you take, all are trying to bring in the best for the students. So I request everybody that, unless and until the whole world looks at it, because COVID comes and COVID will go someday, whatever starts has to go. So the day it goes, the children should not be deprived of what they have to learn. So that the child has to be kept front, because they are the future of the world. They have to take the world further. For that, we cannot stop anybody from their learning. So this is a request for everybody who is watching this. Please connect. Please give them the opportunity, so no child is deprived of it. So again, coming back, when you looked at the video, I'm so sorry it was not played properly. I can share the link if you want in the chat. So that was not what we have not done it. That is what the Gurukulas did the old days. Our own Gurukulas did that. But in course of time, we have changed to a different structure of teaching and learning. But I would rather say that kind of experiential learning gets the child to learn better. And I can also add something here. Teachers become facilitators where the teacher spends less energy, but more outcome is got through this. So if we start incorporating these kind of things into our system, I'll tell you, whatever you're saying, education is relevant. It definitely will become very relevant if we think of reimagining our curriculum, redefining, reconstructing, and getting it to the children. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope I stuck to the time. And yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. It was so wonderful. It was so
you.
wonderful to get your insight.
Thank you.
And few takeaways I will take. Kindergarten in the wild. That is something wonderful. And the experience which you shared, how they are basically taking in a practical way, experiential learning. Wonderful to learn that. Reimagine, reinvent, then curriculum, then context, then connect. And something very important you have taken next to my heart is when you mentioned communication and connecting. The world highest paid person for the marketing his name is Mr. Nido Qubein. Whosoever is interested to improve their communication skills, if you wish to speak like me, if you want to be confident in your communication skills, you must listen to a person day and night. I dream, I get up, I sleep, I think, I work with Nido Qubein. It is Nido Quben. He's a Libyan, shifted to America at the age of 8 years, and at present he is a chairperson of large number of universities, because I go and teach in America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, wherever I'm visiting. Nido Qubein says that it is no more communication, it is connecting. And from communication, when we have moved to connecting, it is connecting heart to heart, connecting soul to soul, connecting mind to mind. If you really want to reach out the humanity, communicating, and from communicating, you get to connecting. So what you have mentioned, ma'am, that something is wonderful. And finally, reimagining curriculum. Yes, it's something very important. Although I don't want to preach that, but this morning when I was watching Takshila and I was watching Nalanda universities, the oldest university, there was a beautiful pedagogy which I learned over there, what exactly used to happen in Takshila and what used to happen as far as Nalanda is concerned. Of course, we have to reimagine the curriculum once again. You come from down south as far as India is concerned. My deep salutations to South. I love South. I regard South. South has done wonderful, so much. And I, during my tenure with the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, spent a considerable time down in South, and it rolls into my vision and wisdom and my knowledge. So much I picked up. Every teacher should enjoy music therapy also. Every teacher, whosoever is in education profession, I do not know, sometime you go to certain institution, people are very serious. The person who is sitting on the reception, he or she has been told to be very serious. When you enter principal, she's so serious, giving you that impression that time has gone. Stop that era and aura that if you are somewhere giving a very sober, not smiling, not welcoming, and giving a little kind of a different impression, it doesn't go. It doesn't go anymore. I think you got to be laughing, smiling, happy all the times. That is, and music therapy plays very, very important role for all of us. So teachers, I would request you, the gamification in education is also coming. The positive games are coming in management. You learn tactics. You learn how to develop strategies. We are requesting from our chamber all the game producing companies that do not produce destructive games or destructive, kind of a constructive. Rather, you should come out with games which can build the character and the entire system in a way. Children learn through gamification, music therapy. There is a lady in Northeast. Her name is Dr. Sunita Bhuiyan. She teaches management and leadership in education through violin. And she plays a violin and 5 sentences on the leadership and on education. So new examples, new pedagogy has to come. So thank you very much. It was wonderful to have you. May I now request Madam Geeta Gangwani ji. She is from the BBPS institution school from Rohini. Madam, you have got a large number of schools under this banner, and you told me that this is an independent identity. So I consider you, and give us the beautiful chemistry of the universe, of the education ecosystem, how wonderful we can take the entire galaxy further while empowering the education and making education relevant.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the chance. And good evening, everyone on board. And I would first like to thank the ICSI and Dr. Gulshan Sharma and Ms. Swarnima for giving me this platform to express my views. I would like to share my screen and share a few concerns. And I must say here one thing, that when you are the last speaker on board, the things become easier for you because a lot of things have already been said by the fellow panelists. And also a lot of insight has come from Dr. Gulshan Sharma himself also. I had kept my expression a bit more concise, sir, and I would like to start with a few concerns which normally bother me as an educator. My first concern is knowledge doubling. This is a concern that was raised by Buckminster Fuller, and he said that until 1900, the year 1900, the human knowledge was supposed to be doubling by approximately every century. By the time it was 1945, the knowledge was doubling by every 25 years. And currently, as he says, the average human knowledge is doubling every 12 to 13 months. And the IBM says that with the Internet of Things coming in, knowledge is expected to double in every 12 hours. That to me is scary. Another concern is the half-life of knowledge. According to Arbeson, information has a predictable half-life period. So half of the knowledge that we learn could be either replaced or disapproved. So over a period of time, with the advancement of tools and knowledge, the things that we learn, they become obsolete and new things contradict what we have learned earlier, right? So as an example, a century ago, it took about 35 years for half-life of what an engineer learned when he or she got his degree to be disapproved and replaced. And by 1960, the half-life of his knowledge was reduced to mere a decade. And in the modern estimate, the place of half-life of an engineering degree, I mean, with due regards to all engineers, this is true for all professions, sir. And with the engineering degree content becomes, kind of has a half-life period of 2.5 to 5 years. That too, if the person is putting 10 to 20 hours of study per week. So that's the kind of scenario that we have. And this leads to the Red Queen effect, where one has to survive another day only by keeping pace with the changing knowledge and the changing scenario globally and locally. And we really, really need to co-evolve with the systems with which we interact and we coexist. Having raised these three concerns, knowledge doubling, knowledge half-life, and the Red Queen effect, as an educator, to make education relevant, the three things that come to my mind, which are very, very broad points, and my previous panelists have also touched them also in their presentations. We have been talking about it again and again, but in the light of this knowledge doubling, knowledge half-life and Red Queen effect, I feel that the urgency of looking into the matter of curriculum updation is very, very important. We belong to CBSE schools. Our curriculums, especially in the senior classes 9 to 12, are very well defined by CBSE and NCERT. However, up to class 8th, we have good amount of internal freedom and only broad guidelines are available. So it's a duty of every educator to keep updating the curriculum, especially in the lower classes up to grade 8, because in classes 9 to 12, though we have a right to give our inputs indirectly to some extent, even to these bodies, CBSE and NCERT, but we have more freedom, and that freedom should be utilized for updating curriculum in the interest of the children and in the interest of making education relevant. And one point which I feel very strongly is that information literacy should be made an integral part of the curriculum, because with so much of, you can say, tsunami of information left, right, and center, most of the time children don't know how to use the information to the best of their ability. So information literacy, I think, could be a part of our curriculum. Our pedagogies and assessment have to be updated regularly. Now, when it comes to pedagogy, most of it is left to the innovation of the teacher and also to the vision of the leader of the institution. So I think more or less guided by our governing bodies, the pedagogy updation is a task that a visionary leader of the institution must take up. And when you talk of pedagogy, pedagogies related to IT are very, very important. You have pedagogies where you have integration of art, visual or performing arts, that is also being talked about. Pedagogies where you allow hands-on experimentation, that is also being talked about. Pedagogies with learning corners and learning centers are being talked about. But our teachers really need to be trained in handling IT tools. When it comes to that, there's lots to be done, more by the leaders at their respective institutions than by the governing bodies of the state or the center. Coming to assessments, since I had a chance to visit UK and Germany and Australia, I have seen the effectiveness of peer assessment and self-assessment. Currently, I think in education, we are focusing more on teacher assessment. Of course, there are multiple types of assessments that we are using, but we have not been able to come down to clubbing the teacher assessment with peer and self-assessment. And more importantly, sir, in the dear audience, I would like to say that with the spread of COVID-19, we have realized one thing, that once even we are out of this situation, as in when we are out of this situation, our teaching will have to be hybrid. Our teaching will have to be remedial and blended. There's no point going back now. Once we have taken this path forward for online teaching, we need to continue with blended teaching, and therefore online assessments using auto proctoring by artificial intelligence is a tool that I have explored personally and would like to recommend to all. And because we have to make our education relevant, these upcoming tools for assessment needs to be explored and tried. Last but not the least is the grooming of lifelong learners and developing global citizens. Once we talk of learning as shifting from knowledge accumulation to knowledge construction, where we believe that every child is capable of constructing his or her own knowledge based on his previous experiences. Therefore, it's all the more important that learning has to be student driven, and the teacher has to be only as a facilitator. This is what other panelists also said. Every person in the ladder of education has to have this philosophy of learn, unlearn, and relearn. Unless we adopt this philosophy, we would never be able to update and keep pace with the changing scenario worldwide. And also in our thinking, one has to imbibe second order thinking. That means thinking for a long term, keeping aside the short term goals set by us for ourselves, for our students, for our institutions, and for education at large. So when it comes to lifelong learning, a lot has been said about various techniques. We have talked about in the previous series of this webinar about design thinking, about Atal Labs, about STEM. I would like to focus only on one aspect, which is a tested and tried tool, and that is students being involved in inquiry-based projects. Now, when it comes to inquiry-based projects, there are 4 types of inquiry-based projects. And the pictures, if you see, are self-explanatory. The structured inquiry, as represented by the first teacher, the remote control of the inquiry is in the hands of the teacher. So the teacher gives a question or a project to the entire class, and the entire class together engages in an inquiry. That's a structured inquiry. In a controlled inquiry, which is a better method, the teacher chooses the question or the topic and identifies the resources, and then leaves it to the children to explore the resources, come up to a solution or a tangible outcome. In a guided inquiry, a teacher chooses the topic and leaves everything else to the child. But to make education relevant, we have to only and only opt for free inquiry, where the student chooses the relevant problem himself based on his interest, based on his abilities, and is on the path to find a solution, and the teacher is there as a facilitator. So in the inquiry-based project or learning, it is the learner who will ask questions. It is a learner who will investigate, research, go to net. It is a learner who will create and draw and share. The learner will report and think. And once the tangible solution or outcome is with him, he would reflect, revise, and rethink. And all through, the teacher is a facilitator. To make education relevant, I strongly recommend that the internal assessments, which are held for every class. Currently, those internal assessments are left to the educators, and in most of the cases, it boils down to either a chart making or a PPT making. I strongly recommend and advocate that inquiry-based projects should be an integral part of the internal assessments which are assigned in schools, so thereby making it a part of the curriculum. One more advantage which I see of the inquiry-based project is metacognition, a skill, a very, very important skill for the learner. So it enables the learner to think about his own thinking. It's related to self-awareness. Once the learners become self-aware, and once the learners start thinking about their own thinking, they will understand how best they learn. They will understand how best can they cope up with a particular challenge. And once you go in for inquiry-based projects, metacognition skills come alongside as a bonus. There's just one more concern, because I thought of shortening and keeping my areas limited to only 2 concerns. So one was the inquiry-based assessment, and the other I want to talk about is AI. Algorithm is the new God. This is the famous quote that we hear now. And there's a lot being talked about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, machine learning, deep learning. And our children, when they come out of the school and in the coming years, will be living in a society which has AI-enabled gadgets all around. Not all children will pursue careers in AI, but all children will definitely be using in the society, in their day-to-day work, in their workplaces, AI-enabled appliances. It could be driverless cars, or it could be smart houses. So one way is that we inculcate AI in our curriculum, and that has already been done up to class 9 and up to class 8 also in some schools, recommended by CBSE. But I would strongly advocate that AI has many precursors. There are various kind of pedagogies that must be a part of the curriculum in junior classes, as young as a preschooler or a pre-primary child, which will later help them understand AI, even if they don't pursue AI as a career. And amongst these skills, the important ones are problem solving and logical thinking, linear algebra. More important for younger kids is pattern recognition, pattern breaking and making, and very important, spatial intelligence. How to visualize a 2D object into 3D and vice versa. And all these skills can be given in the formative years when the children are in preschool, pre-primary class 1, 2, 3. So by the time they come to class 4, we can introduce games and Scratch and Kudo. But in the junior classes, these skills can be very well embedded through, block apparatus, Montessori apparatus. It's very easy to have activities based on these. The other side, flip side of this quote, algorithm is the new God, is the fact that whenever we are ready with the AI enabled gadgets, and we are into a society which is largely governed by AI in the coming times, there will still be some jobs which will not be taken up by AI. And these jobs have been categorized into 4 categories: creative jobs, complex and strategic jobs, empathetic jobs, and there is a set of jobs as yet unknown jobs, because once the society has been taken over by all AI enabled jobs and gadgets, there will be some jobs which are still unknown to us and will unfold themselves as we progress with time. Now, if you look at the list, you have the musicians, the professional dancers, singers, art therapists, novelists, editors, graphic designers, of course, the public relation managers and teachers and all. So if the school on one hand tries to enrich the curriculum in the lower classes with AI or precursors of AI, at the same time, it is important for the school to have opportunities for children who will take up these set of jobs which are not going to become obsolete. So here, vocational training, vocational subjects, inculcation of vocational subjects by the schools is very, very important. We already have a list of vocational subjects. However, somehow we have not been able to advocate amongst our parent community the importance of these vocational subjects. And therefore, the footfall of children going towards vocational subjects is very, very low, even in schools who have it. Most of the schools don't even offer vocational subjects, but those who offer, there also their takers are very, very few. So there is a need to popularize these vocational subjects. Very important is that we need to have internships as a compulsory part of our internal assessment, especially for our senior children, because there has to be a campus to cooperate drive. There has to be a partnership between schools, institutes, and industry. In the absence of a real-time exposure, children are not able to even understand the career that they have shown their willingness to opt for. And in the annual pedagogical plan of the school, the collaborations with various organizations must be embedded in form of various activities that we plan. And these collaborations are an initiative of the school leader and the school staff. Simple collaborations like if somebody wants to pursue journalism. So for a group of students who want to pursue journalism, a collaboration with Z Media is very, very easy and very fruitful. Similarly, somebody who has taken up music in class 11th, a tie-up with, in India I'm talking about, with T-Series is something very easily approachable. It's doable. So unless we have those real life connects as a part of our pedagogical plan, education cannot become relevant. So my humble submission is that while we update our curriculum, pedagogy, as well as assessment, keeping in mind the future demands, a lot also needs to be done by the school leaders and school educators, along with, of course, the policymakers. Thank you so much, sir. I think I have stuck myself to 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Geeta ma'am, thank you. Thanks a lot. It was a wonderful sharing your thought process. Now, in fact, I'll make all the mics unmute. Kindly unmute all the 3 mics, because all 3 together we will just work on. Before I convey my deep gratitudes and thanks to Geeta ma'am, learn, unlearn, relearn, wonderful, lifelong learning, inquiry-based projects, inquiry-based learning, and metacognition and artificial intelligence, wonderful. And one part which you touched very nicely, we are bringing after 2 weeks one program exclusively, a panel on public relation, PR, and that is coming exclusively through how artificial intelligence and the PR work will be complementing and supplementing each other. Like teachers will never be replaced. We cannot take teachers away because the machines, they do not have empathy, they do not have emotions, they cannot feel human beings, they cannot give that kind of a touch to a child which you get from the principal or from the teachers. Well, it's wonderful. All the three, I have got few questions which people have posted. Anybody can take on, but I'll just read out the questions so that we all are on the common frequency. There's a gentleman, he regularly joins us. He's a colonel from the army, Shiv Chaudhary. There's a huge knowledge gap between the teachers of 1990 and of 2000 and now of 2020 and teachers required post-COVID, the 2020. The gap is becoming more wider and teachers have to work very hard because he says situation is very, very serious. In certain areas, students will have more knowledge on machine learning as compared to teachers because they're handling the gadgets, they're born with the gadgets. And there is another gentleman I enjoy quite a bit. Yeah, Simon Sinek. If you watch him on the YouTube, you can see a lot of programs of his which comes. Another one is the Les Brown. And that is something he says when you go for the morning walk, either you adjust to somebody's pace or somebody adjusts to your pace. Whose pace have you adjusted to? So we got to understand there are certain things which children will be knowing better than us. There is Rajeshwari Bhaskar. Good evening, ma'am. I would like to know how grading, unlike in CCE, could be done. There's another question from Amit Kumar. That is, ma'am, stress of getting good percentage and stress of heavy marks and gold medals and all. Does it come from the parents or does it come from the institutions? So then there is a Senthil Kumar. Why in India the education system has not turned their attention towards updated practical knowledge for the students? Like, I don't want to name a country, but I have to say China, Japan, other countries. If they provide means, more entrepreneurs, why not in India? Then, of course, there are a couple of other questions. Now, each one of you, you can take about 1 minute, and then we will sum it up. The 1 minute, 1 minute each you can take, and education has to be learning centric. And finally, my question to you is, as a principal, as a teacher, as an educator, as a motivator, whatever name you want to give to yourself, or as a subject specialist, have we ever tried to understand and know what does youth want? What does youth want? Let's start with Asha ma'am. If you take more than 60 seconds, then you have to invite me to Kuwait. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, I would like to take up the question of marks. And I feel all the stakeholders are involved in this. Parents' pressure is there. Teachers also grade the students as per marks. And students themselves are also envied if they get poor or they get good marks. So I think all the stakeholders are involved. And that's why I said that it breeds lot of jealousy and it's not very healthy.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now, little more difficult question I'm pouring in and moving ahead. Everybody says my child should get 98%, 99%. And then everybody is telling you must get a gold medal, you must get a silver medal. Percentage, marks, subjects, do they really matter in life, or is there something else? Chitra, Kala ma'am.
Well, if you ask me, what I feel is, first, as Madam just said, the parents are the ones who have to understand. First of all, I should understand what is my level of understanding of a particular subject. Every child cannot stand first. And that is where the challenge lies in the hands of the teachers. And I would connect the first question as well, teachers struggle. Looking at that, If you see, there's a saying which goes this way, 18th century curriculum taught by 19th century teachers to the 21st century learners, right? So we have all these centuries embedded together, and the teacher has to find a solution how to convert the 18th century curriculum to the 21st century learners in a proper way. And earlier it was the teacher just told stories and did it. Today she has to give it as a capsule.
Okay.
Ultimately, the output is the mark which the parent or the child or whoever looks at. So here the challenge lies in the hands of the teachers. But as different stakeholders, first of all, what we should think is a person who's successful doesn't mean a person who's achieved or earning more or living in the best of his lifestyle. A person who's successful is a person who's very happy in his life. That is what parents should understand. Because happiness, as you said, music makes you happy. So if a person is happy, then he's lived his life, fulfilled life has been done. So the parents have to be educated here to understand ultimate is not marks. And they have to also understand what is the level of my child? Is he good in skills? Is he good in academics? Is he good in creativity? So that is where we have to nurture. This is where all the schools are working now, including all the principals, I can say. We try to speak to the parents on, your child is good at this. Why don't you put the child in this particular subject for him to learn in future? So this is how we can do transformation, because everybody cannot be doctors, everybody cannot be engineers. You should have skilled workers as well. So I think I've answered the question. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Geeta ma'am, you brought such a beautiful chemistry this evening, and you teach also chemistry subject. What I wish to learn from you is arts, commerce, and science. Arts, commerce, and science. When the whole universe base is art, culture, heritage, harmony, and wonderful brotherhood or familyhood, and like a universe as one family living, why parents emphasize more that you should become engineer, you should become doctor, you should go for this subject? Of course, chemistry is very important. I fold my hand for that. It's very important. But why parents force, and why they look forward to that my child should go for science subjects?
Sir, this question could better be answered by parents. But what we understand and I have understood in my 30 years of career is that most of the time it is the parents' own unfulfilled dream that he or she wants to fulfill through the child. And most of the time it is the pressure from the family or the relatives or the peer pressure, or in layman's language, the bhed chal that you say, that the children opt for these subjects unknowingly without realizing their own potential. But I want to add here one thing, sir, that over the last few years, over the last decade, I may say, I have seen change in the mindset of the parents. I have seen change in the mindset of students who are becoming more self-aware, more vocal. And the testimony is the fact that today our best children are going into humanities because they want to pursue psychology or arts or music. So the change is slow, but the change is happening. And our efforts as principal to, make the parents aware of this and the students aware of this have also become multifold. So now you also have those psychometry tests that we conduct in class 10. The career counseling has gone down from class 12th and 11th to class 8th and class 9th. So more awareness, talking more about non-conventional careers, that also has its impact. And of course, the information explosion, the availability on the net of the various informations regarding non-conventional courses, I think that has also played its part.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You touched one very important point, that psychometric test.
Psychometric test.
And when I talk about psychometric test, I'm reminded of, there are 3 youngsters. They have joined hands together. And one of them is a very smart, very innovative, very creative boy. His name is Bikramjeet Singh Kalsi. He has got organization built up. It's called Brain Pundits. Brain Pundits. and they have developed various tests for the youth. So you can analyze yourself. You can see the website at your own, Brain Pundits. You can get a lot of information over there. We can work on to that. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before I close down, I just wish, as I promised, 3 to 4 slides quickly before we will close down. Our chamber in the month of April and May, when we have carried out the entire study, we have found world over that the whole norm of the globe and whole norms of the world is going to change. B2B, what used to be known as earlier, business to business, would be now known as back to basics of life. We have to get away from the luxuries, and over there, the basic food, the basic agriculture, animal husbandry. So our chamber strongly recommends start cultivating some vegetables in your kitchen garden, make use of your rooftop, and whatever organic plantation you can have. You can have ginger, you can have garlic, you can have turmeric, you can have these kind of basic things, and then some vegetables you can grow over there. Food is going to be the basic necessity because nobody knows. Think about the Spanish flu, how long it lasts. It came back, so we do not know today. Whatever is going on is all just wild guess. Nobody knows when the vaccine will come, how long it will continue, how long the lockdown would be there. So the basic part is your organic food, you can start growing right now. I have started, and I never was a student of agriculture, but I've started taking interest how to survival of the fittest. Second part, you got to be taking care of your health. And when we talk about health, the wellness has taken the frontal seat, and it is not the allopathic or it's a surgeries or going to those hospitals. And when I talk about wellness, your yoga, your meditation, your naturopathy, your nutrition, your organic food, and your mental happiness. Watch one video on the YouTube of Mr. Tim Grover. He is a coach of Michael Jordan, and he says we devote more time on the body preparation, not on our mind. If the mind muscles have to become strong and mentally you have to be robust, anybody, irrespective of your age, those are watching this particular program, please pass on the message to everybody to get the mental robustness. It is very important. If you are mentally robust, if you are mentally strong, your body will follow. You will not have any problem. You will not have any disease because the dopamine which will come in your mind. So thereby health, happiness, herbal, and of course, I have already told you the secret. Music therapy is very important. Enjoy music, but don't listen to sad songs. Listen to the romantic, beautiful, melodious song. Like my mother at the age of 90, she listens only romantic songs. And why not? Education, when I talk about the third pillar of the Golden Triangle, education will never get back to those classrooms and that infrastructure where it used to exist before March 2020. Now you have to come to the new pedagogy, and that is earn and learn and digital education, e-platform. Sooner we adopt, better it is. And finally, the education and skills, micro, small, and medium enterprises, logistics, technology, and the strategy. And the solution for the whole world is sustainable development. Sustainable development. That part is very important, which we all have to get it and we have to understand. Let me just get to the next slide. Why we started this campaign on 5th of June. Now, at present, all children are locked at home with the parents. I would request start the journey from the home itself. Start saving water. Every drop of water is very important. Jal Sanrakshan is our Sankalp, which we have started from 5th of June. And this journey of education empowerment, we are taking up to 15th of August. And we want to bring all education stakeholders together on a common platform. Come, let's be a part of this campaign. You could also be global water conservation. Yodhas mean our youth. Our youth, they're very important. They play very important. Every drop of water is very important. So we should save the water. Let us create a pool of yodhas. That means our youth with the practical water saving techniques. At present, we are at home. Then we will be in school. Then we will be in colleges. Then the universities. Then the workplaces. Then the factories, shopping malls, and other places. Let's save every drop of water. And our strong recommendation to the Ministry of Human Resources Development, Government of India, Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank ji and his entire team, like we have got other vocational subjects like tourism, like hospitality, like fashion, there should be a subject vocational in the 11th and 12th where the techniques of water saving, how to save water, because the next world crisis, take our words, we have done a lot of research in our chamber ICSI, it's going to be the global water crisis. Okay. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last slide which we come on. Whatever human mind can conceive and believe can achieve. It's a beautiful book. I'll be sharing tomorrow evening the quote with you. And let us come together for global education empowerment. Our chamber, International Chamber for Service Industry, you can see the website www.icsiindia.in. You will get complete forum, everything related to education empowerment. Your suggestions, your ideas, if you wish to be a panelist, if you wish to send any idea, please send on the email innovation@icsi.asia. You can also send a small WhatsApp should you wish to send at 73411222044 or 73411734449. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, my deep regards and thanks to the lady who is a Sutradhar, that is Swarnima Luthra ji from the ASN school, who is getting all the school, because after schools we'll be going to colleges, colleges to universities, universities to technology experts, thereafter the policymakers, then we are going to the government, and finally on the 15th of August, you will have a beautiful document coming. We are not talking about policy, we are talking about action plan. Those of us who enjoy research, go through, there's a difference between policy and action plan. Action plan is which is accountable. You got to get the response onto that, that if I'm implementing this, what is the result of it? And you got to give the results layer by layer in that. With these words, ladies and gentlemen, my deepest regards and thanks to the Golden Triangle, Asha ji, Chitrakala ji, and Geeta ji for joining us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Very kind of you. And look forward to seeing you in near future on another platform. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night to
Thank
all
you.
our viewers. Good night to
Thank you so
everybody. Thanks for joining.